So thank you for tuning in to the third part of our Insurtech vertical. So after the presentation from Severin that has been guiding you across how to do AI in insurance and Insurtechs, then we went across the panel with Fernanda. Now I have the pleasure to welcome Simon, who is joining us actually from Sydney. Hi, Simon.
Hey, how you going? Thanks for having me.
So we decided, as mentioned in the introduction, to not use COVID as an excuse, but to use it as an opportunity. So finally, we can just take you out of the Nordic ecosystem and just and bring you down to Sydney, which is 17,000 kilometers away, I think, technically. So as mentioned, we are joined by Simon, who has been spending the last 10 years in the Insurtech space. So after his a graduation from an MBA. This would happen in 2016. So then he created a company that has been providing the technology services to the insurance industry. Potentially realized that the needs are way bigger than expected. Then it just moved forward to with an advisory. Then the creation of Insurtech Australia, what is an NGO that operates until today, that has been helping the incumbents to understand the Insurtech growth, as well as to combine and then map the different Insurtech companies. And then since 2019, there has been a creation of Insurtech Gateway in Australia, which is an accelerator and incubator. And just before we start, the way how we actually got connected to Simon was during the first time when we have been mapping our Insurtech ecosystem in the Nordics, and we looked for other solutions and other mapping strategies from other companies or other NGOs across the globe. And by accident, we found the Insurtech Australia report that has been released like half a year before. And we used this as a foundation to the report that you can download from the website, which is, of course, free of charge. So, Simon, thank you so much for joining us. And then could you be so kind to guide us a little bit across what is Insurtech Australia now? What is Insurtech Gateway Australia? What are you doing on a daily basis, being a little bit far away? And why do you have an office in the UK?
Yeah, thanks for the introduction. And yeah, I won't forget the first time we met. I was standing in an office in Brisbane with hosting an Insurtech Australia event, the NGO. And I was talking about the performance based on the latest startup genome data coming out. I think it was in 2018. The performance of Sydney and other cities within Australia relatively compared to the globe's performance. And I was talking about Stockholm being on a per capita basis the highest performing startup ecosystem in the world, and producing the most amount of unicorns and so on. And then in the middle of the crowd, yourself, you stand up and ask the question as someone who's been helping to guide the ecosystem over there. So it was very nice to meet in that way, and we've been keeping in touch ever since. So really nice to connect in this forum and be a part of this this event, so thank you. So yeah, Insurtech Australia, it's a local NGO in Australia with the vision of helping to progress the Insurtech ecosystem, as you mentioned, through collaboration and so on. And one of the ways in which Insurtech Australia seeks to progress the local industry is to take some local founders and also local insurance executives on an annual delegation to different ecosystems around the world, I guess, to show these executives and founders how some of the leading destinations are doing Insurtech. So I think it was, again, 2018, we took a delegation to London and also Munich and other places in EU. And yeah, that's one of the first times I met with the Insurtech Gateway team in London, who do amazing things. They're definitely a leader globally with Insurtech. They created the world's first regulated independent incubator. So a little bit about Gateway. We're essentially an investor, early stage investor plus incubator. So as we know, it's quite difficult to get into the insurance market as a startup, given the barriers to entry. So I guess smart money is not enough to be able to support founders. You need other services as well. So that's what the gateway is all about, is lowering these barriers. So it's providing not just capital, but also access to regulation, so licensing, access to insurance capacity for new insurance products, and access to a team of experts who have launched startups and done successful things in the past. So that's what Gateway does in terms of its value proposition. And I guess there's a question of why Australia. London has been incredibly successful over the last, say, 3 to 4 years. And I guess they identified Australia as a fairly good proxy market. It's quite similar to the UK in many ways, a good market to replicate some of the startups that have been through the London program. And we have some unique problems to solve in our own right down in Australia. We obviously have bushfires, lots of floods, and the proportion of natural disasters to the total losses in Australia is quite significant. So I think insurance and technology has a big role to play in servicing the needs of insurance in Australia.
When we have been a little bit preparing for the Fireside chat, then I told you that we have not really been sure how COVID has impacted the fintech and the Insurtech ecosystem. But then the Swedish Fintech Association has done a review and has asked their members, and actually it came out that more than 60% of the fintech companies and Insurtech companies are performing better, or at least claim that they have seen a bigger transactional volume than before COVID. And then you said, from an investor perspective, you have seen some like an increased deal flow. So there has been some kind of a movement that suddenly you have received more investment opportunities than before. Can you specify like how many, which type of opportunities, and what do you think? Who is sending them in? Is there?
Yeah, it was quite a surprise, a pleasant surprise. So we receive almost all of our pitch decks and inquiries we receive come inbound across our desk, either through our website or other means. Like we have innovation scouts and other partners and VCs in the market who understand what we do and our proposition and so on, and they send founders our way. And yeah, we saw a 20 to 30% increase, I guess, in deal flow numbers coming across our desk from about September last year, which was nice. So I guess it's a mix of you have the technicians working within the industry who I guess are working from home, and maybe they think it's an optimal time to, in addition to fulfilling their day jobs, I'm sure, work on some ideas that they may have had. So they've been sending in decks, and also founders from other industries. We're seeing a lot more founders who have been able to demonstrate some product market fit with an early idea in another vertical, who are looking to go kind of sideways into insurance, knowing that there's definitely a lot of appetite from the industry to solve some problems.
But from your investment perspective, I think when I have been spying on your website before this call now, I came across the statement that you are investing in one company at a time, right? So
yeah.
Which type of companies are you investing in? Who can apply? And when you invest in one company at a time, how long does it take you to actually complete this investment and move on to the next company? What is like the turnover that you can do within a year in such a complicated industry?
Yeah, it's a good question. So yeah, we're very much about, unlike other and some accelerators and incubators, we don't like to do cohorts. We generally like to find opportunities, unique opportunities, and take a de-risked approach and really nurture them into the market and ensure their success as much as we can. So in London, the London office, I believe our colleagues there like to do, say, anywhere between around 8 per year, maybe more, portfolio companies. They have a slightly larger team than us in Australia, and also a larger deal flow network or market, which covers not just the UK but EU as well. In Australia, we seek to do, say, 3 or 4 per year. So I guess if you break that, and then sometimes it overlaps. So for example, at the moment, we are actually doing incubating multiple portfolio companies at once. So We generally look for pre-seed, so a founder with a compelling CV and a really good idea. And yeah, we like MGA models, so to introduce a new product in the market through a managing general agent model, because we're able to offer licensing and capacity through our network and so on. And we think that getting a product in the market directly, whether it's a B2B2C model through a low to zero cost distribution partner, or if you've got some other distribution opportunity through a B2C model, it's just a good way to prove an idea if you can look at those customer facing metrics, whether it's growth metrics like obviously month-on-month growth with your premium and your conversions and so on, but also risk metrics as well. So we very much focus on sustained growth. So for example, By Miles, one of the early London portfolio companies, they're a really good benchmark. They were able to grow quite quickly, but they're also very conscious of managing the performance of the portfolio and the insurer's P&L. So that's about managing claims frequency. So at the end of the day, that value sits on the MGA's, the By Miles' P&L, but the value also flows through to the insurance partner. I think in Australia, we had early on with Insurtech, we had a lot of MGAs stood up that were more focused on growth. And I think that potentially compromised the reputation for a short period of time. Within Australia, at least anyway, with Insurtech. So we're too focused on growth and not focused enough on the bottom line, I guess.
But zooming or like trying to shift more towards AI and investments in AI, I think a little bit similar to blockchain. So I think both of us have been to all of those conferences where they're very similar to TED Talks. So everybody says that, oh, we should do more blockchain, we should do more AI, and then they get off the stage and everybody's clapping, but then we don't really know what to do as next, right? But then you said that in your portfolio. So on one side, there's an investment into Human.ai. So in case you could just do like a short elevator pitch to what they actually do, why have decided to invest into them. And then there was another, because we have the life and pension industry, which is a little bit more behind because it's potentially more complex with more players and legacy systems. That you had another project what was called, I think, Roar.ai, if like to guide individuals towards a potential life insurance. So could we speak a little bit about both of them? So what does Human.ai and what do they do?
Yeah, so the thesis we have at the Gateway is that as far as usage-based motor insurance is concerned, a pay-as-you-drive model is probably best in the domestic consumer market, and the pay-how-you-drive, which is kind of like having a big brother in your vehicle, should be reserved, I guess, for the commercial space. So Human.ai have developed a very sophisticated, like a world-class technology that I guess it empowers fleet managers. So think about Uber fleets like rideshare and so on, to be able to manage risk. So they have an IoT device that communicates and lots of data points. I believe there's hundreds of data points processed per second that flows through to determine the terms of insurance, the pricing, and so on. So I guess it empowers fleet managers to coordinate their fleets to be able to put downward pressure on risk, and that reflects in the pricing. So that's Human.ai. We also worked on a project briefly with Rho.ai, RHO.ai. They're a very sophisticated data science business. So we work with them on a project to use customer data to be able to, when a customer lands on a retail life insurance website, e-commerce life insurance, there's a fair few complex questions in there, like how much coverage do I need? And they found that a lot of that sales funnel, if you call that quote form a sales funnel, there was very poor conversion. So what they did is they basically use data science to work out what cohorts people fit into, so that when people are able to land on that website, they'd be able to get guided, not advised, but guided on what people like them chose in terms of the cover. And I guess they were able to it lends to optimization of conversion through the sales funnel, I guess. So that was another fun project.
But then here, and of course, one of the key challenges is like trash in, trash out. So then you take data which is not reliable, and you do predictions based on this data, which doesn't make sense. So you can, of course, count all of the bottles on a train line between Stockholm and Berlin, and then do some predictions. But then the question is, okay, what is the counting? What does it really tell you? It tells you nothing. But then here in the second project, you said when it comes to data sources, so then individuals have not logged into the personal database with e-identification solutions from the government, but they actually have been logging in to their supermarket reward-based program behavior. Is this correct?
Yeah, so that's one of the data sources that one of the projects was using. Yeah, so in Australia, there's a duopoly in the supermarket market, and one of those providers, which I guess provides services to 50% of the population, were providing the data to one of these data science companies to use that to try and inform some of these, or the ability to put some of these prospects into cohorts and so on. So yeah, who knows if there's a correlation between someone's buying habits in the supermarket and their risk profile or whatever. So I thought that was quite interesting.
Yes. So you technically buying broccoli versus living longer, right? So it's a kind of an interesting prediction that comes there. Simon, when it comes to Nordic companies and like the ecosystem that we have here, so we did the report, I think 1.5 years ago, and then we have around 70 Insurtech companies, and we have been debating if this means that we have many or few. Because on one side we have 380 fintech companies, it seems that there are more, but of course Insurtech is way more complicated. But can they reach out to you in any way, either in the UK or on Australia, and say like, hey, we actually have this innovative product and we would like to try this out in Australia? Do you actually help them from a commercial perspective? Do you have more restrictions connected with who can apply to you? Because on your website it says there were all of these government grants. That of course there's a lot of envy coming from me, looking at those grants, because here we have very few, seeing what actually founders can expect. But besides those grants, how does your support look like for companies from the Nordics?
Yeah, so for more established companies, we have set up a model for replication, or global replication as we call it. So yeah, the Gateway in Australia has a proposition that can help to replicate companies that have achieved some product market fit in some market into the Australian market, or at least do an assessment and put a business case forward as to why Australia might be a suitable market, if not a platform through to Southeast Asia. If we've got the London portfolio there, we catch up with the guys at London, guys and girls at London, on a weekly basis to discuss deal flow, and we often see some really compelling deal flow for early stage portfolio companies coming from the Nordics and other parts of the EU. So we really like what we're seeing over there. There's some really ambitious and really technical founders that we're seeing from over there. So yeah, we love to see deal flow from that part of the EU. And we've got a framework established to be able to support anything from pre-seed through to someone that's achieved product market fit.
As we are slowly, I think, reaching our 20 minutes, and I could speak to you for hours, because then one of the discoveries that I made visiting you and reading your report is actually in the Nordics we have been stuck. I was convinced, okay, we have all of those challenges specified by incumbents and Insurtech companies. They are very local. Only we have them. Then I read your report, and this was like, okay, this is not very local. It's actually like global challenges potentially that you have them as well. But is there anything that you would like to say that you feel I didn't ask you? Anything that we have missed any kind of an observation when it comes to AI and Insurtech, anything that lies ahead for you in 2021?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I'm not sure how to answer that. I think that this kind of cross sharing of ideas and knowledge between different corners of the world is quite important. I'll be tuning in for the rest of the week, gaining as much information as I can. I think, Stockholm has demonstrated that size doesn't matter in terms of the outputs from the ecosystem, which I think is really impressive. It's more about the local levels of local connectedness. And you obviously haven't had to rely on as much government support as us. But yeah, I think things are going really well over there. Obviously, the levels of collaboration with incumbents is quite important, and lots of energy or a fair amount of energy should be always committed to bringing the incumbents along for the journey. I think they've had a fair few years to kind of get their rhythm now and get familiar with an Insurtech strategy or a means to be able to engage with Insurtech and realize an innovation strategy. So thankfully, I think our respective industries are kind of a bit more geared for collaboration now, and I think we should start to see a lot of the rubber hit the road and a lot of fruits from that over 2021 and next year as well.
Cool. So Simon, once again, I know how busy you are. Thank you so much for joining us. And then for the viewers, it's important to underline that whenever we finish those panels, it's not that we are dying. You can, of course, reach out to us, and Simon is easily accessible on LinkedIn. This is how we connected with him and asked him to join as well. So then please check out the Insurtech Gateway Australia and then the incubator. And then, of course, as discussed, Simon is more than happy to take on all of your questions and send and see all of the pitch decks that you will potentially be sending in. So thank you so much, and thank you so much for tuning in for the 3 sections of the Insurtech vertical. And I do hope to see you with the next Stockholm FinTech Week again.